Mia Thompson loved the quiet. At 17, her midnight walks were a peaceful escape from her noisy home. On the night she vanished, the air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. The clock struck 12:03 a.m. as she slipped out, earbuds in, humming to her favorite playlist. For her, midnight wasn't scary, it was serene. At 12:14 a.m., she sent her last text. "I'm just walking around. Be home soon." Her best friend, Lila, read it and went back to sleep. No one was worried, but on Maple Street, a CCTV camera caught something odd. As Mia passed an intersection, she slowed down, turning her head slightly, as if she heard something. A moment later, she glanced behind her. The footage showed nothing was there, but Mia's body language screamed unease. She looked startled, yet she kept walking. For the next 3 minutes, the cameras filmed her moving faster, her flashlight beam dancing nervously, her eyes darting back at the empty sidewalk. No cars, no people, no sound. Just Mia, walking into the stillness, unaware these were the final safe moments of her life. And as she walked, her shadow stretched unnaturally long behind her. The last clear sighting of Mia was at the corner of Harley Road, under an old, flickering street lamp. Its dying bulb cast a pale, ghostly circle on the asphalt. Inside that circle stood a figure, tall, perfectly still, staring at the ground. Mia hesitated, removing an earbud, thinking someone might need help. But the figure didn't move. She cautiously crossed to the other side of the street. As her flashlight beam trembled past, the cameras caught her pausing mid-step. Under the lamp, the figure lifted its head. Just its head. The movement was unnatural, slow and smooth, like a puppet on strings. Mia's breath hitched. She took a step back, pointing her light toward the lamp. In that instant, the street lamp flickered violently, and the figure was gone. One frame, it was there. The next, it vanished. Mia froze, spinning around, scanning the shadows with her light. Her breathing grew heavy. She started to run, not because she saw anything, but because she felt something. Witnesses later said the street lamp stayed lit for the rest of the night, never flickering again. And as Mia fled, the cameras caught something else. A long, dark, misaligned shadow slipping across the sidewalk behind her. It wasn't hers. Something was following. At 12:21 a.m., Mia entered a stretch of road with no cameras, just old houses and tall hedges. She slowed down when she heard it. A soft whisper right next to her ear. One word, in a voice that was neither male nor female. "You're late!" She spun around, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Nothing. No footsteps, no rustling leaves, not even her own breath in the cold air. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She tried to call Lila, but the call failed. No signal. She started walking again, faster this time, her shoes tapping an unsteady rhythm on the pavement. Her flashlight flickered. Her playlist had stopped. Her phone battery, which was at 70%, suddenly plummeted to 19%, then 8%, then 3%. Just as she reached the next street, it died completely. Cursing under her breath, Mia shoved the dead phone into her pocket. That's when she heard it again. "Why are you leaving?" The voice was just behind her, softer than the wind, but clearer than any human whisper. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She didn't dare look back. Her instincts screamed at her to keep moving, but in her panic, she tripped on a broken piece of sidewalk and fell, scraping her palm on the concrete. She looked up and found herself staring at a pair of bare, dirty feet, just inches from her face. She gasped and scrambled backward, getting to her feet and backing away. She lifted her head and saw no one. The feet were gone. The road was empty. But the whisper returned, this time directly above her ear. "I've been waiting for you." At 12:27 a.m., the last working camera on Redwood Street captured Mia running, sprinting into its view. Her face was a mask of terror, her eyes wide. She kept looking over her shoulder as she ran, stumbling, nearly falling again. Her hoodie was torn, as if something had grabbed it. But the most terrifying part of the footage wasn't Mia. It was the shadow trailing her. It moved like a stretched, crawling smear across the ground, not matching her shape or her movements. It didn't belong to any person or object. It was longer than her own shadow, much longer, and it was gaining on her. The camera filmed her as she darted into an alley, breathing hard, crying, running for her life. Halfway through the alley, she turned toward the camera, her face a silent plea for help, as if something was right behind her. Her mouth opened in a scream that no one could hear. And then, the footage cut out. Not a technical glitch. Something passed directly in front of the lens, something tall and black. For the next 40 minutes, the alley remained empty. No Mia, no sound, no shadow. At 2:17 a.m., Mia's mother came home from her hospital shift. She expected to find Mia asleep, but her room was empty. Her shoes and jacket were gone. The front door was unlocked. Confused, she checked her phone for messages. Nothing. At 2:30 a.m., with Mia still not back, her mother stepped outside, calling her name into the cold, empty street. The sound just echoed back. She walked to the corner, searching for any sign, footprints, her phone, anything. There was nothing. At 3:05 a.m., she called the police. When the officers arrived, even they seemed unnerved. An open door, missing shoes, the chilling silence. Something was very wrong. At 3:40 a.m., her father rushed home, panicked, and joined the search, his shouts for Mia piercing the still night air. Neighbors woke up. Some joined the search party. One man quietly mentioned hearing a girl scream earlier, but he dismissed it as a dream. Another woman heard running footsteps, but saw no one when she looked outside. Another neighbor reported hearing knocks on his window, but when he checked, the street was completely empty. Mia was gone, swallowed by the midnight quiet she once loved. What happened to her in those last terrifying minutes? And what was the thing that hunted her in the dark? We may never know. Thanks for watching. By dawn the next day, the police had swarmed Mia's neighborhood, a methodical grid search unfolding street by street. They scoured 2 entire residential areas, combing through bushes, checking under cars, and peering into storm drains. But as the sun climbed higher, a sense of frustration began to set in. They found nothing. Not a single thread of clothing caught on a fence. No discarded phone, no scuffed footprints in the soft earth of the parkways. There were absolutely no signs of a struggle. It was as if Mia had simply evaporated into the night air. The real breakthrough, if you could call it that, came from the digital world. Investigators huddled in a darkened room, replaying the final CCTV footage of Mia's run over and over again. And that's when they saw it. A shadow, dark and indistinct, chasing her. At first, it was easy to dismiss. Just a camera glitch, someone muttered. A lens flare, maybe. But the video analysts, the experts who lived and breathed pixels, vehemently disagreed. This wasn't a glitch. Glitches distort. They create blocky artifacts or streaks of color. This shadow, it moved with a chilling sense of intention. It didn't just appear, it followed. And as Mia's desperate sprint intensified, the shadow grew larger, stretching, closing the distance. Driven by this disturbing discovery, officers rushed back to the scene, to that final, lonely streetlight on Redwood Street. They examined the area with forensic precision. Once again, they found nothing. No footprints, no tire tracks from a waiting car, no cigarette butts, no evidence that another person had ever been standing there. But then, one of the younger officers ran his flashlight up the metal pole of the lamp. He stopped. "Hey, get a look at this." Etched freshly into the cool metal were long, thin, parallel scratch marks. They looked for all the world as if a set of long fingernails had been dragged violently down the pole, scraping away the paint and biting into the steel beneath. The marks were fresh, too fresh. Meanwhile, the human side of the investigation was proving just as perplexing. Mia's mother was a wreck, but her story never wavered through hours of repeated, grueling interviews. She insisted, with a certainty that was heartbreaking, that Mia had no reason to run away. There was no secret life, she said. No depression, no recent fights with family or friends, no clandestine boyfriend Mia was hiding. Her phone records showed no strange late-night calls. She was a happy, stable girl looking forward to her future. Then they spoke to Lila, Mia's best friend. The interview had barely begun before she broke down, her sobs echoing in the sterile interview room. Through her tears, she clutched her phone. "She texted me," Lila choked out. "She said she was on her way home. She sounded normal. She wasn't scared then. Lila looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of grief and terror. Something must have happened on that walk. Something must have followed her. The lead detective, a veteran who'd seen his share of strange cases, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. Followed by what, Lila? And Lila whispered a sentence that would hang in the air long after she left. I don't think it was a person. That single, chilling statement shifted the entire axis of the investigation. The police started looking at the evidence not for a person, but for something else. They went back to the video archives, pulling all the CCTV footage from the earlier parts of Mia's walk home. This time, they weren't just looking for a clear suspect. They were looking for anything out of place. And they found it. On the cameras from streets she walked down minutes before her final run, the analysts noticed something incredibly subtle. Mia wasn't entirely alone. It wasn't a figure you could point to. It was more like a feeling, a wrongness captured on camera. Whenever Mia slowed her pace, or glanced over her shoulder, or stepped off the curb to cross a street, a faint distortion would appear in the air just behind her. It was a slight warping of the light, a shifting blur that mimicked her movements with perfect, eerie synchronicity. It was as if the very atmosphere was bending around something invisible, something that occupied space but didn't reflect light. The analysts, now obsessed, worked for hours to stabilize and enhance the footage. Frame by painstaking frame, they filtered out the digital noise. And slowly, the blur began to take on a faint, unnatural shape. It was a silhouette, stretched and elongated. Vaguely humanoid, but all wrong. Like a shadow that had been cut free from its owner and had no light source to cast it. The most terrifying part? Its behavior. Whenever Mia turned to look behind her, the shape would instantly freeze, becoming one with the ambient shadows. The moment she faced forward and started walking, it would resume its silent pursuit. When a passing car's headlights flickered across the scene, the silhouette seemed to jump, changing its position in the blink of an eye, always staying just out of the direct light. The investigators tried to find a rational explanation. Compression artifacts, one suggested, clinging to logic. It has to be a technical error. But the pattern was too precise, too consistent across multiple cameras from different angles. It behaved less like a glitch and more like a predator. Late that night, the lead detective who had been analyzing the footage found himself alone in the quiet video lab. He decided to listen to the audio one more time, cranking up the gain to isolate any background noise. He'd listened to it a dozen times already, hearing only the hum of the streetlights and the distant rumble of traffic. But this time, filtered through high-end audio software, something else emerged from the static. It was faint, a dry whisper buried deep in the recording, right as Mia passed the camera. A voice, cold and devoid of emotion, seemed to hiss directly into the microphone. It said two words, "Keep walking." The detective ripped his headphones off and slammed the monitor shut, his heart pounding in his chest. He was completely, utterly alone in the room. 3 days after Mia's disappearance, the case had stalled. The physical world offered no clues, and the digital evidence was pointing towards something nobody wanted to believe. Then, the witnesses started coming forward. First was an elderly man, Mr. Green, who lived in a small house overlooking Redwood Street. He told the officers he'd been woken by a noise and had peered out his window just in time to see Mia running past. That girl was terrified, he said, his voice trembling slightly. Kept looking over her shoulder like the devil himself was on her heels. But the strangest thing, when she ran under that streetlight, her shadow wasn't right. He struggled to find the words. It stretched too far. It was wrong. The second witness was a late-night delivery driver. His route took him past the alleyway near where Mia was last seen, right around 12:30 a.m. He reported seeing a girl standing alone in the mouth of the alley. She was shaking, he explained, his eyes wide with the memory. Just standing there, crying, holding her phone. I slowed the truck down, was going to roll down the window and ask if she was okay. He paused, shaking his head in disbelief. But then I blinked, and she was gone, just vanished. 1 second she was there, the next it was an empty alley. It was like someone just switched off a projection. The third and final witness statement was the one that never made it into the official police report. It came from a 10-year-old boy who lived in an apartment with a clear view of the street. He claimed he saw a tall, thin man following a girl from a distance. The police were initially hopeful. This was their first description of a potential suspect. They showed him photo lineups, pictures of known persons of interest in the area. But the boy just kept shaking his head. Finally, looking down at his feet, he said quietly, "He didn't look like a person. He looked like a shadow, pretending to walk." The detectives thanked the boy and his parents, but as they left, they knew this testimony was unusable. It was the ramblings of a child with an overactive imagination. Or at least, that's what they told themselves. 5 days later, search dogs finally detected Mia's scent. It was near an abandoned drainage tunnel, 2 miles from where she was last seen. But what sent a shiver down the officers' spines was how the scent trail behaved. It didn't meander through the forest or cut across the fields. It just stopped, abruptly, as if Mia had been lifted straight off the ground. Cautiously, they entered the tunnel. Their flashlights cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing deep, uneven scratch marks gouged into the concrete walls. They stretched for several feet, jagged and raw. The marks didn't match human nails. They didn't match any known tools. They didn't even match the claws of any local animal. The forensics team was stumped. The pattern was completely unidentifiable. The deeper they ventured into the tunnel, the more the temperature dropped. An unnatural chill clung to the air, making their breath fog. Their flashlights, one by one, began to flicker. Their radios crackled with static, the connection to the outside world becoming tenuous. One of the younger officers swore he heard whispering, a faint, sibilant sound just at the edge of his hearing. He shook his head, blaming it on exhaustion. At the very end of the long, dark passage, they found something that made the coldness inside them even more profound. It was Mia's flashlight. It was still on, its beam flickering weakly against the damp concrete, and it was still warm to the touch. It had been used very recently. Lying beside it, almost hidden in the shadows, were 6 words faintly carved into the wall. It looked like they had been scratched in with a rock. The words read, "I didn't go willingly this time." That last word, "this," hung in the air, heavy and menacing. It chilled every single person who read it. It implied this wasn't the first time. It wasn't the first time something had taken someone from this town. More terrifyingly, it suggested that Mia knew what had dragged her away. She knew the thing that had come for her in the dark. Weeks turned into a month. The search for Mia Thompson became one of the largest in the state's history. Teams combed every inch of the surrounding forests, checked every rooftop, followed every trail, and descended into the town's sewer system. They found nothing. Not a single clue. Not a shred of clothing. Not another footprint. Eventually, with no leads left to follow, Mia Thompson was officially declared missing, presumed gone. But the strange occurrences in the town didn't stop with her disappearance. They only got worse. Mia's mother started receiving phone calls. They came at the exact same time every single night for weeks on end, 12:14 a.m., the time Mia had vanished. When she'd answer, there was never a voice on the other end, just the sound of slow, deliberate breathing. Then one night, the breathing was replaced by a single, terrifying whisper that rasped through the receiver. "Your turn." After that, the calls stopped for good. The town itself seemed to hold its breath. A resident, an older man who often walked his dog late at night, reported seeing a young girl standing under the broken street lamp at 12:27 a.m. He said she was just standing there, crying silently, her shoulders shaking. He felt a pang of concern and started to approach her, calling out to see if she was okay. But as he got closer, she simply vanished into thin air. The investigators had sealed the security footage from that night, claiming it was too distressing for public release. A few copies leaked internally, and the officers who reviewed it were never the same. They never forgot what they saw in the final chilling frame. Mia, turning directly toward the camera. Her eyes were wide with a terror that seemed to break through the grainy footage. Her mouth was open in a silent scream, and behind her, a shadow. It was a shadow that towered over her, stretching impossibly across the ground. It bent and twisted in ways that were unnatural, leaning over her as though it had finally reached her. And then, the footage cut to black. To this day, no one knows what happened after midnight on that road. No one knows what the shadow was or where it came from. No one knows where Mia went. And no one knows what she was running from in the first place. But the residents who remain will tell you that the roads echo differently now. Footsteps always sound just a little too close behind you. Whispers seem to linger in the dark alleys. And if you find yourself walking alone after midnight, you might just hear a soft voice right behind you say, "Keep walking." Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.